Rachel, can I stare you just for a second?
Whoa. Yeshmatza. What's up?
Wherever you guys go, you have to go together. So the only problem, hey Sydney,
Hi. Hey guys, Shabbat Shalom.
Sydney, what are your
And I didn't want to interrupt. Shabbat Shalom to you too.
boardroom versus downstairs? What are your thoughts about the boardroom versus downstairs? Like, I'm okay with them in the boardroom, unless you would rather them be in the muscle room. I don't care. So why don't you guys go to the boardroom? Because then if you need one of us, you're okay. You don't need to come.
I was going to say she can give my, I can give her my key too.
I mean, usually they're pretty good in the boardroom. I think. Rochelle, thank you for your help last
Oh
night.
my
I didn't even
gosh.
get to talk to you. It was
Were you wearing
so
an apron?
awesome. She was.
I was like, I think she's wearing
No,
an apron.
she was
It's
so
like so adorable.
fantastic.
That's
It
really.
was awesome. It's
that was
really
sweet.
fun.
It's been a long time.
What's going on with your
she
mom?
okay?
Okay.
Oh no. Whoa.
Everything happening in the such precise timing. So that what is happening on the front of her attendant's eyes.
Yeah.
That woman called me. I don't know what to do. I say,
Call 911.
911.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
They took her to Mobec. It was such a short time that they gave her medication for flushing
Yeah.
those.
Yeah. The block.
Immediately did CT and transferred her to BJC, big one.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Over there, they did the surgery, remove blood, and they show me before blood, it's half braid of white, and the second one, it's a tree of life.
Oh my
I
gosh.
swear to God, it's a tree.
Whoa.
Wow.
Um,
Amazing.
Recovered like nothing happened. She said, I don't believe I had it.
is she's at Barnes now though? Where's she's at Mobec.
Okay.
She's in.
Don't have anything to rehab.
Oh my gosh.
Whoa.
Amazing.
That
Oh
is.
my
That's
gosh.
wild. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Welcome,
Oh my
guys.
gosh. Amazing.
Welcome back. Oh, wow. Yeah. Ooh.
Yeah. Wow. Amazing.
She's also a tough lady. I want to give her credit.
Yeah.
You know, it's good to give God credit, but I feel like she's a tough lady. You know, you all are. You know, like you've been here and back, not to be messed with. Wow.
All right, friends, if you're out there schmoozing and you can hear me, it's time to come in.
Somebody's hiding. But I can't see. I can't see.
Hi, Lainey. I see you. I
No.
see you.
All right, we send Misha Barak tonight.
welcome everyone. So, we've got so many schmoozers. I can see you all out there.
Are there non-German Jews that are taking it? Something happening right now?
I know. You
Are
know
the
what?
Polish Jews having
Everyone
their
has
way?
been sitting for Seder for so long that they're like ready to not be doing that. All right, so I think we'll start and we'll just sort of see if our singing can encourage everyone to come in. So Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Welcome.
Shalom.
So it is Chag Sameach. So as you know, probably, this is the Shabbat of Passover. And so we thought that we would do just a few Passover songs tonight. There's a song that we usually sing at the very end of, maybe not the very end.
Havdalah.
Yeah, but also,
Really,
but
yeah.
like
Mamash
4/5 way points of the Seder when we sing Eliyahu Hanavi.
Of the Seder.
And this is the one that is all about the idea that Elijah the prophet is supposed to come and he's supposed to show us that the world is on its way to being a better place. So we thought maybe we could use that in the beginning of the service tonight. So we are going to start with doing a little Eliyahu Hanavi, which can be found on page 337. Yeah. Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Hatishbi, Eliyahu, Eliyahu, Eliyahu Agiladi, Bimhera v'yamenu, Yavo Eleinu, Imashiach ben David, Imashiach ben David, Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Hatishbi, Eliyahu, Eliyahu, Eliyahu Hagiladi. Look, it's pretty. You guys have been practicing. Beautiful. All right, let's do, we're going to do another Shabbat song. This one is on page 330. And we've been doing this one for a while, so hopefully it's starting to sound familiar. This one is at the bottom of the page, Ki Eshmera Shabbat. Let's see what that does, right? Beautiful. Ki Eshmera Shabbat, El Yishmereni. Ki Eshmera Shabbat, El Yishmereni. Oti leomeyad beino veni. Oti leomeyad beino veni. Ki eshmera Shabbat el yishmereni. Ki eshmera Shabbat el yishmereni. Beautiful. All right, 4 boys in the second row. You guys are so awesome. Will you come help us with our blessings? Since this is what happens, everyone knows if you sit too close to the fronts. Come on up. It'll be, you get to use a lighter, so.
Oh.
And
guys know
it's
about
the
the lighter?
coolest lighter if you guys don't. Do you want, you can come up too, it's okay. Come on up. All right, so our Shabbat candle lighting can be found on page 2, but the guys are going to help us with a little lighter first. All right, David Treskoff, you're on. You might need a little bit of assistance. All right, you press it, pretend you're Skywalker. Beautiful. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat. Beautiful. All right, David Litvin, you get to be our Kiddush guy. We hold the cup from Rabbi Michael. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei pari hagafen.
L'chaim,
It's just grape juice.
that we know of.
Excellent. All right, perfect. All right, Sam, will you go grab? All right, so it's not challah tonight, of course, but the blessing is the same. You do the same blessing because it's still God who brings forth grains from the earth. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. Beautiful. Nicely done. Thanks, guys.
Matzah
All right, you can be seated. Great. So every time that we come together for Shabbat, we like to think that there are maybe some angels in our midst. And so we are going to welcome our Shabbat angels tonight with Shalom Aleichem, which can be found on page 24. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Asharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi-melech Malachei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Boachem Neshalom, Malachei Ashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi-melech Malachei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Baruch Hu Ni L'Shalom, Malachei Ashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi-melech Malachei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Seidchem L'Shalom, Malachei Ashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi-melech Malachei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. On the bottom of 27.
Entrances to holiness are everywhere. The possibility of ascent is all the time, even at unlikely times and through unlikely places. There is no place on earth without the presence.
Please rise on page 28 as we call each other to worship with the words of the Baruch Hu. Yai da 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 da. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach, HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. HaMevorach, HaMevorach le'olam va'ed.
On page 31, praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows.
Baruch atah Adonai Hama'ariv Aravim. And on the top of 33, we read together, As you taught Torah to those whose names I bear, teach me Torah too. Its mystery beckons, yet I struggle with its truth. You meant Torah for me. Did you mean the struggle for me too? Don't let me struggle alone. Help me to understand, to be wise, to listen, to know. Lead me into the mystery. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. And we join in words of Shema. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. Please be seated. Ve'ahavtam et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol meodecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'elem asher anochi mitzavacha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam b'shivtecha b'veitecha uv'lechtecha v'derech uv'shochbacha uv'kumecha uv'shartam la'ot al yadecha v'hayu l'totafot b'neinecha uchtzavtam al mezuzot beitecha uv'isharecha leman tizkeru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'yitem kadoshim le'Elohechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim liot lachem le'Elohim ani Adonai Elohechem. On 39, standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot.
That wherever we go, it is eternal Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness.
That there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together. Weeks and weeks ago that we read Mi Chamocha in the Torah portion, but most of us sang the story of the Mi Chamocha, of the idea of the Israelites' exodus from slavery to freedom at our Passover Seders this week. But what we always talk about in our service that we don't say at the Passover Seder is we know that freedom doesn't just happen and all of a sudden everything is amazing. We know that after freedom, there is a lot of work to be done, and that at those times we hope and we pray that God will be there protecting us. And so in our service, when we sing Mi Chamocha, we follow it with the words of Hashkivenu, which can be found on page 42. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom, l'shalom, v'hamidenu shomreinu L'chaim Ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha Ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha Amen. Shelter us beneath thy wings. Shelter us beneath thy wings, O Adonai. Guard us from all harmful things, O Adonai. Keep us safe throughout the night. us, God, wrong from right. Amen. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom, l'shalom. V'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim. So a quick story for you. So last night we had a Seder here at Temple Israel, and it was the first time in a very long time, certainly since before Rabbi Michael and I have been here, that we just had a Seder for adults. And I will say that we were a little bit nervous about it because we weren't entirely sure how it would work because everyone was doing their own thing. The idea was that each table would go through the Haggadah at a separate time. And we thought, well, this could be a total mess. It could just be this just cacophony of noise and no one will know what's going on. It'll be all over the place. And instead, it was amazing. It was so beautiful because what we heard throughout the night is that you would hear one table singing Ma nishtana laila hazeh, and then another singing Dai Dayenu, Dai Dayenu, and somehow it all came together in the most amazing and miraculous way. And it was just this reminder to me that a lot of times when we are praying, we also may not be on the same page. We may all be following the same Siddur, the same prayer book, but in our hearts and what we're thinking about, we may all be at a totally different song. But somehow, when we're all together, it just works. It makes the most beautiful music. So we're going to turn to page 46, and I'll invite you to rise. And if you'd like to sing with us the prayer that's on the page, please feel free and do so. But if in your heart you're offering another prayer, whatever it is, the song that you're singing or the prayer of your heart, please know that you're always free to offer that as well. And still together, it's going to make some beautiful music. Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei avoteinu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomer Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei Hakol, V'Zocher Chasdei Avot v'Imahot, U'Mevi Geula Livnei B'neihem, L'ma'an Shemo B'Ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshia U'Magen, Baruch Atah Adonai, Magen Avraham V'Ezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechayeh HaKol Atah Rav L'Hoshia, Mechakel Chayim B'Chesed, Mechayeh HaKol B'Rachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim V'Ofech Olim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayem Emunato, Lishenei Afar, Michamocha Ba'al Gevurot, Umidom Melach, Melech Mimit Umechayeh, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman Atah Lechayot Hakom, Baruch Atah Adonai, Mechayeh HaKol. Please be seated. At the top of page 55.
May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat.
And we join now together in prayer for peace on page 60 with the words of Shalom Rav. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim La'olam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim La'olam. Ki ata melech adon lechol hashalom. Ki ata melech adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim La'olam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim La'olam. V'tov beinecha levarech et amcha Yisrael b'chol ituv v'chosha b'shlomecha. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim La'olam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim La'olam. We're going to move forward in our Siddur now to page 253. And we'll take a few moments and we'll offer a prayer for healing. And I know that while this is a week when many of us are having the joyful experience of being able to be with families, I know so too that there are many of us who have people in our lives and in our circles of family and friends who are hurting this week. So if there's someone you're thinking of who could use a Misha Berach and who would appreciate knowing that their names were being shared here, I would invite you to say them at this time. So we're thinking too tonight of Arlene Alper and Lacey Weinstein. And we're thinking of Drew. And so thinking of all of them and all the names we shared, and also each of us, we join with the Misha Berach on page 253. Misha Berach Avoteinu Mekol So, it's Passover, which means that I know most of you have probably already asked yourselves or had someone in your families ask you at least these two questions. Number one, how much longer do we have to do this? And number two, what exactly is it that we are supposed to eat or not eat? So, tonight, I'm going to answer both of those questions for you, and then perhaps more importantly, I'm going to tell you why your rabbis honestly don't care. I should have asked you if that was okay first, but okay, at least this rabbi, I'm pretty sure Rabbi Michael agrees. Okay, so first, the answers to the questions. Why do some people keep this holiday for 7 days and some people keep the holiday for 8 days? Well, the Torah says that Passover is going to begin on a certain day in the month of Nisan, and then it is going to last 7 days. So it seems pretty obvious, right? The Passover should be 7 days. The question is, though, if you were living in the time of the Torah and you wanted to look and be like, hey, is it the 15th of Nisan yet? Where would you look? Because no one had iPhones. And no one even had paper calendars. They just didn't do that then. The idea of having a calendar that is actually sort of judged by what's going on and, using scientific methods, that didn't happen until like the 4th century. Which means that a long, long time ago, people needed another way to be able to tell what the date was. And the way that they would do that in the Jewish world was because the Jewish month starts when there's a new moon. There were some priests whose job it was in the ancient temple to go out and look and see if the new moon was visible in the sky. The problem is, well, there are actually a lot of problems. Number one, sometimes it's cloudy. Number two, it was the job of these certain priests in the ancient temple to be able to tell that, which is fantastic if you live right next door to the ancient temple, because those priests could be like, hey, David, guess what? Start Passover. And you'd be like, cool. But if you didn't live right there, the priests had to figure out some way to tell you that the holiday had started and that you should start keeping Passover. And so sometimes they would send messengers, and then they came up with this awesome idea of lighting signal fires to tell people who lived far away that the holiday had started. But I want to tell you guys, and I'm not naming any names, but there were some troublemakers back in the day. Maybe some of you know some troublemakers too, and they thought it would be totally funny if they went and randomly lit signal fires all over the place at different times, and so it really messed with people knowing what time the holiday began and what day it began. So what they decided to do is on like the most important holidays, like Rosh Hashanah and Passover, they were like, let's just throw in an extra day so that if we didn't get the date exactly right, chances are we'll get it the next time. That's the story of why some people do it different lengths of time. I'm going to come back to that. The story about what we eat is also, it's pretty clearly explained in the Torah. There are certain kinds of grains that we are not supposed to eat, and we're really not supposed to eat them when they leaven. So you may be saying to yourself, matzah is actually made out of wheat, right, which is one of the no-nos, but we don't allow the wheat to rise. It only rises for like 18 minutes. That's what makes it matzah. And so you're allowed to only eat these certain types of grains. But how many of you, and some of our young people may know this, how many of you think that they were eating a lot of corn in the Middle East 2,000 years ago? Right? Not a lot of corn. Maize, right? Not a lot of corn back then. What about rice? Yeah, not a lot of rice either. Okay, so there's no rules about corn that are in the Torah. There's no rules about rice that are in the Torah. And so people came up with some additional rules about what exactly you should be eating or not eating on Passover. And especially Ashkenazi Jews, who are Jews who come from Eastern Europe, they added on those rules. Okay, they said no corn, and they said no rice. And they also included things called kitniot, which really in Hebrew just means little things. But it's this idea that there might somehow get another grain might like fall into the stuff that you were making your matzah out of. And then you'd have a problem because it would all be mixed up. Or they also had the problem that perhaps you were eating one of the grains that is allowed, but you made it sort of look like bread, and someone might be seeing, Ella is eating this bread that's made out of something totally kosher, and they're like, oh, but Ella's a good Jew. I guess I can eat bread on Passover. Oh my gosh, and then Ella would have just led people astray. So they said, okay, you can't have anything that has these kidney oat, these little bitty things in it. You can't have rice and you can't have corn. And that's why to this day, many, many Jews do not eat those things on Passover. Even though about 600 years ago, a bunch of rabbis looked at that idea and they were like, this is totally a malarkey. They didn't say malarkey, but they said that is not true. And then a few years ago, a bunch of Reform and conservative rabbis, should Reform not be legit enough for you, all got together and they were like, oh no, actually, this is also a silly idea. You can absolutely eat corn, you can eat rice, you can eat kidney oats to your heart's content. So why then do so many of us still keep the 8 days of Passover and still have all of these different rules for eating that are not in the Torah, even though intellectually we know that you totally can be very, very Jewish and following the laws in the Torah, even if you don't do those things? Okay, so here's what I think it is. I think the problem is that change is super hard. And I think that for so many of us, if this is what our parents did, or our grandparents did, or our great-great-grandparents did, or even just what we've been doing as long as we've been practicing, it is incredibly hard for us to change. And I think more than anything else, that is actually what Passover is all about. It's about the idea that sometimes it is so hard for us to change. And we find ourselves caught in these very narrow places where we feel like we can't move this way and we can't move this way, and we have to keep doing things exactly how we've always been doing them just because that's what people do. But you see, this idea about being stuck in these narrow places of only doing what we've always done, that's what Passover is about. Passover is about the idea that our ancestors were slaves in Egypt. And they finally, when they were in Egypt, you may remember there's this idea that they were experiencing avodah kasha. They were experiencing this very difficult labor that made it hard for them to do anything. And it wasn't just the work of slavery was so hard. They were just so used to doing the same thing over and over again that they just couldn't get themselves out of slavery and do something new. They had to be able to somehow have something that forced them to make a change. And there's a reason we think that the word for Egypt, Mitzrayim, is almost the exact same word for narrow places. It's this idea that when we were in Egypt, we were stuck in these narrow places, not being able to make a change. And so too, a lot of us, we still have that. For us, our narrow places, it's not about slavery, but there's a lot of us who may be in some sort of situation in our lives that we feel stuck. Maybe it's a relationship that we've been in forever, a friendship, a partnership that just isn't working anymore. And we know that we deserve better. Maybe it is a job that we've been doing for so long and it just feels like, how could we possibly do anything else? And you just feel stuck. Maybe for some of our kids, maybe it's a sport that you're doing or an instrument that you've been playing forever and you just feel like, why am I keep doing this? I feel like I have to do it. But the truth is, you're not stuck. What Passover is supposed to do is supposed to teach us that we can get out of those narrow places, that we can do something totally new, and that we don't have to do something just because our grandparents and our parents did it or just because it's what we're used to. We actually can make a change. And Passover is supposed to help lead us from that stuck place to something better. So when you're celebrating Passover, if you want to keep the full 8 days, keep the 8 days. If you want to not eat any of the grains that are listed in the Torah, if you don't want to eat rice, if you don't want to eat corn, that is fine too. But the truth is, if you're keeping all of the rules and you're not thinking about what it means to be unstuck, you're not really keeping Passover. That's why, can I count you into this? That's why Rabbi Michael and I, we don't really care if you keep the 8 days. We don't really, okay, wait, now I'm talking to the parents. Parents, you're in charge of telling your children what to do, but for the parents, we don't care if you go home and you have a white bread sandwich. We don't. Because the truth is that Passover is not about the food you put in your mouth and how long you keep these customs for. It's about what are you doing with your life? And are you finding some way to get from that stuck place to a place where you can be a better version of yourself? Today in Jewish tradition is the first day of the counting of the Omer. It's this period that takes us all the way from Passover until Shavuot. Shavuot, which is the holiday that in Jewish tradition says this is when we receive Torah and this is when we really figure out who we are as Jews. And so what I'd like to do is give you not just Passover, but give you all the way from this first day of counting of the Omer to Shavuot to figure out if you can get yourself unstuck. May these be the weeks ahead that you realize that you really can make a change. That you don't have to do things just because it's what you've been used to doing, or because it's what your grandparents and your parents did. This can be for each of us a time for change. Shabbat Shalom. So we're going to ask you now, if you will, to please rise, and we will turn to the Aleinu on page 282. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שמחקנו כהם, וגור עלינו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. On 287, may we gain wisdom in our lives, overflowing like a river with understanding. Loved each of us for the peace we bring to others. May our deeds exceed our speech, and may we never lift up our hand but to conquer fear and doubt and despair.
Rise up like the sun, O God, over all humanity. Cause light to go forth over all the lands between the seas, and light up the universe with the joy of wholeness, of freedom, and of peace.
V'nemar v'haya Adonai l'melech ha'kol ha'aretz bayom ha'hu yeh Adonai echad u'shemo echad. So at this time, we take a few moments and recall with love the names of those taken from us in recent days. And our hearts go out to their families in sympathy as we recall their names. Evelyn Dickhouse, Judith Gall, Mitchell Grand, Louis Hyman, Doris Ray, Judson Weaver, Elizaveta Konovna Zafran. And we recall the names now, the anniversary of whose death occurs on this Shabbat, and whose names have been inscribed in the archives of our congregation or on the Wall of Honor for perpetual memorial. Ben M. Berger, Morton Brand, Dora Severs Brown, Samuel Brown, Daniel Cohen, Arnold Harvey Cole, Dr. Harry Cutler, Jack Dubinsky, William Engel, Joseph A. Epstein, Lori Shear Fadum, Michael Fadum, Rita Fishman, Fanny Fox, Sarah Lassie Czar Frager, Carol Frank, Hulda Aronson Freund, Rose Fuchs, Jack Gelfenbaum, Eugene M. Goldberg, Helen Levin Goldman, Gloria Mintz Goldstein, Jake Bender Goodman, Max Heaney, Fred Kling, Nathan Koslow, Stella Wiener Kriegshaber, Herbert Leuchter, Matilda Levy, Pauline Levy, Saul Lowenstein, Norma Ludmerer, Catherine Klein Nathan, Helen Joan Rovak, Charles Rubenstein, Abraham Lewis Shapiro, Murray Schneider, Sophie Schorsch, Alan Schreier, Samuel Shukot, Ralph Scherberg, Bernadine Silverman, Joseph Silverstein, Margaret Snyder, Robbie Spetner, Milton H. Tucker, Elizabeth Waldman, Morris Wax, Sabina Scher Weissman, Carolyn Corinne Wildman, Charlotte Wolf. With these names and the names we keep in our hearts, we turn to the words of the Mourner's Kaddish on page 294.
Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, ba'alma divrach yirteh v'yamlich malchuteh, b'chayachon uvyomechon, uv'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala uvizman kariv emru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach la'alam omei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei dekudesha barichu, La'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechmata, da'amiran ba'alma v'emru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya,
v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'emru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'emru amen. In a source of peace, and peace to all who mourn, and comfort all who are bereaved. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru amen. Please be seated. So before we turn to our closing song, we definitely have some announcements that need to be made. So first of all, following this service, if you registered for our chocolate Seder, you are going to be going out those doors and hanging a right that way, and we will meet you there. Do not start eating until we get there. I'm looking at you, Grayson. Just kidding, I'm not looking at you, but really. Don't start eating until we get there. We will all start together at 7:30. There is not religious school this Sunday. Please don't forget that. On Wednesday, there is the Passover Yizkor service at 11 o'clock in the morning. This is a beautiful service. Whether you've lost someone this year or just are here to remember someone that you've lost in years past, it is very intimate. It's very personal. You're more than welcome to join us. We also have a rule here that we refer to as the Rabbi Shook rule that he instituted that says that if you come to the Yizkor service, you can stop keeping Passover after that service. So I don't know if that's really legit, but that's the one that we follow. Next Friday night, well, you are more than welcome to come to services, and we hope you do, but Rabbi Michael and I will not be here. Rabbi Shook will be leading the service because the two of us and Leslie and Sydney are going to be in New York for our confirmation trip, so wish us luck.
We'll take everything we can get.
But of course, we'd love to have you here at services. And then the following week is our sort of Israel celebration on Sunday morning. So all of that information is right here, and you can read it and just check it out there. So for our closing song tonight, it is traditional at the end of the service to sing a song that says L'Shana Haba'ah B'Yerushalayim. We're going to do a little bit of a different version of that. We are going to do Bashana Haba'ah, and this one can be found on page 348. The message is pretty much the same. It's just this idea of saying that next year we will be together, but specifically we like to say this song because it says, oh, how good it is going to be when we are together next year. So I hope you'll sing along with us. Bashana Hava'ah נשב על המרפסת ונספור ציפורים, no they don't. ילדים בחופשה ישחקו תופסת בין הבית לבין השדות. עוד צירי כמה טוב יהיה בשנה הבאה. צירי, כמה טוב יהיה בשנה הבאה. Bashana Haba'ah, next year we will see just how good it will be. So Shabbat Shalom, Chag Pesach Sameach, and again, if you're going to the Chocolate Seder, you're going to go out those doors, and we will meet you over there, but don't start eating until we're there to greet you.
What she starts, I can't be held accountable for. Go out and have white bread. I mean, where's the rabbi here? Huh?